This podcast series is brought to you by Elekanyani Ndlovu. For more details, visit elendlovu.com.
My name is Elekanyani Ndlovu and welcome to Womanifesto. Womanifesto is about telling, sharing, and owning our own stories. This week, my guest is Nono or Dimakatso. Nono is a self-motivated businesswoman who has built a remarkable career in the agricultural sector. She specializes in primary agriculture and she has a particular focus on empowering the youth. She has leveraged her financial services background and her entrepreneurial skills to distinguish herself. She believes that engaging in the right platforms and collaborating with the right partners can propel everyone to do far more in contributing towards the transformation of the agricultural industry. Thank you so much, Nono, for joining me on Womanifesto, and I'm really looking forward to unpacking your story.
Sure, no, I'm glad to be here.
When I came across your name and what you actually do, the conversation we were having was about farming and the realization that you had actually been in finance. And I was like, what? How did she move from finance to farming,
So I started at PSG Consult, more in financial advising and wealth management. So that's the space I kind of occupied. And then when I worked at Investec, I was in the wealth division. So still investments and wealth management. So that's where I was.
And what triggered the shift? What was your journey like? How did you get to a point where you're like, actually, I need to move or change this?
Yeah, so I think for me it was interesting. So just to give you an idea how I got to, financial services specifically, because I'd studied counting.
Yes.
So obviously my dad thought I was going to be a CA and I was like, I don't think so. Accounting, as much as it was pretty easy for me, it was pretty boring.
Yes.
So when I started in stockbroking, thinking, oh, that looks exciting. Like, you've seen it on TV. That's all we had, about stockbroking. Long story short, I got an opportunity to join PSG Consult on the stockbroking desk. And then I realized, no ways. Being a stockbroker means I'm just sitting in front of a computer the whole day and looking at numbers. No. And so then I looked in myself and said, what do I have to offer and what would interest me? And the two things, finance was the fact that I know I'm financially inclined. That's really what I prefer more. But I also want to be with people. I want to meet people. I want to, talk to people. It's about connecting with people in the work that I do. And that's why I became a financial advisor. So as I went in it, I felt really fulfilled because I got to do exactly what I liked, which is meeting new people, being active and speaking about the stuff that I really knew and felt comfortable with. And so that was my journey in that space. So when I got to Investec, got a little bit more focused in investments, looking at also how growing up the high net worth clients. But the interesting thing around it was when I was learning. So when I was arriving there and learning, it was like the best place for me to learn. You do your own thing, which is what I had been used to.
Yeah.
You literally creating your own path. And that really worked well for me. And then when it was time to kind of progress, now I know my stuff. Now I need to build my portfolio. The support that I was expecting didn't really come forth. It wasn't forthcoming. And I was a little bit nervous because I felt like I was just not as valued as I thought I was, because I had built a career here. I was building and I was happy. I thought it would continue in the same way. The change in me was feeling that, oh my gosh, why am I pushing to be supported? It just didn't make any sense to me to be pushing and fighting just to get, all the support I need. So get out there and get your money, so, and that kind of broke my spirit, in all honesty. And so my father had bought the farm about a year or two before that, or 3 or so. So it's been a while he'd had the farm.
Yeah.
But maybe about a year before that, he'd always been like, oh, you must come join me. You can do the finances. And I was like, what the heck? Started helping him a little, virtually, like I'll prepare some finances for him, whatever, but still away. And then so that last year when I decided, I literally gave myself one more chance. I said, you know what? I'm going to give it this year. It was beginning of 2011. I'm going to give it 6 months. I'm going to run hard. and see if this really is worth my
Yes,
while,
yes, yeah.
And at the end, I said, I don't feel valued here. And I believe that my father will value my input, my efforts, my knowledge much more. And that was the main reason I just really felt undervalued. That was the real crux of it.
Isn't that an interesting element, though, about corporate? Is that you are there and you're trying to push, and then somehow there's just that disjoint between you pushing and getting the support you need to get your job done, but also sometimes the support that other people around you are getting. And therefore, that's how you actually also know that the support exists, right?
That's exactly the point. You hit it on the nail. It's not that they didn't know how to support me, or maybe they tried and it didn't work. I thought if you're at this level, if you're doing this is what you get, or this is how you get it. What's going on,
Yes.
Some of the questions I used to get was just also very odd. Like, I was starting a brand new, like a pipeline, and I identified Botswana as a potential. Now, I was young. I'm a little girl, right? I was in my 20s.
Yes.
And I was going to Botswana, traveling on my own, meeting, and people with money, of course, are men. The majority of my clients were men.
Yes.
But I was willing to literally, forego my safety. I was flying out the country, and I was really excited about it because the people there were bringing me on. I was meeting really good, interesting people. And then I came back and I was excited. I was like, guys, I got my pipeline. We're going to do this.
Yes.
And like, one of my managers just looked at me and he was like, actually, do you have a boyfriend in Botswana? I remember I used to tell everybody that, everything that my father does for me is actually to make sure that I succeed. It doesn't matter, even if it doesn't work out.
Yes.
But I know the fact that he's got my back. I think that really allowed me to build a very interesting journey.
That was your journey to leave, and there's the journey to being at the farm and what you've gone and done, having your own entity now that you are running with rabbit farming.
When I got on the farm, because obviously I knew finance, I didn't know agriculture at all. So the farming stuff was just like, oh my gosh, what was I going to do here? And I think the stance that I took that allowed me to learn what I actually have learned now is that I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And so I was there to just learn and explore new things.
Yeah.
I got really close with the workers who actually did the work. They knew what was happening. It was important for me to understand what everyone was doing, how they were doing it. And so when I built my one, it was really after understanding, one, obviously the business that I'd been running.
Yeah.
Understanding we came into the business as a going concern, which meant the business relationships were obviously built by the previous owner. And we'd have to maybe get new contracts. The people who work there were already like set in their ways, so it's really around coming in, what's working, and then kind of seeing how do you make it better. When I started exploring the industry and, and learning and understanding what's happening and what support do we have for farmers and things like that, I didn't realize that, like, oh my gosh, like the problem is most of us as farmers, as we arrive, new farmers, you arrive into these businesses that seem like they're working, but they are like a car with like 3 wheels. That car is going nowhere. That's what happened. And those wheels represent your access to finance, your access to markets, your access to training, your access to mentors. So if you don't have a full set of wheels, your car's not going anywhere. And because you're arriving in a brand new business, the most important thing, as we know about business, is relationships.
Yes.
That's actually what we're lacking as new entrances into this industry. That you arrive, we're excited to just have a car, whether it has 3 wheels or
petrol.
Inside.
You're driving.
So they're like, but there's no 3 wheels. Fine, get back and just push. You're getting your people to just push the car with the 3 wheels.
Yes.
And that's the concept. A lot of us Black farmers are running businesses like that.
Mm.
And that's when I decided, okay, great. I'm going to build a business model of how to start a business in the agribusiness in primary production and making sure that I have access to all those little wheels to make sure that my business runs from day one.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of like why I established that business. It was an experiment for me.
Yes, and I think a really cool one because you also have a keen focus on youth, right? There's a lot of young people interested in farming, and there's people who leave the city to go back and go into farming. And what you actually then find is the issue of the four wheels that you're talking about, that then they just don't have the necessary support. Was it a thing for you when you were thinking about going to Free State and then leaving Sandton?
Yeah, in all honesty, I'm a very laid back person in really. So I was glad that I didn't have to wear suits every day. I literally thought of all the positives. I get to wear my shorts every day. I get to, leave my hair as it is. I get to just be calm and just be myself. And I get to be around my people. So I thought about all those little things, I didn't have, when you're in corporate, just, there's a certain level of
a certain culture, yes, and fitting in. Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up just leaving your hair out.
So I used to plait it all the time, and I was so happy I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So, and I focused on the things that really seemed cool to me.
Yeah.
What seemed cool to me is that now I was going to have my own time.
Yes.
What seemed cool to me was that I was going to be away from everyone and everybody wouldn't know where I was. and people are always fascinated to know where you've been, what's been going on. That was cool to me,
Yeah.
So I used to also post a lot about all the stuff I was learning. When you have livestock, every day you have to count. So I used to join them like every Friday or whatever to go count. You're literally counting a sheep all the way to 1,000. 1, 2, no, you've lost count. And with the workers.
Hectic.
It just seems so simple and so like, this is really cool. As I said, there were very different things that I could actually attach and associate to being cool, and also because it was so different to me, to where I was. So yeah, and I think that's what allowed my mind to just really absorb all the information, because I didn't have this hang up about the fact that I'd left or I was missing my friends. I really didn't. And I mean, I know a lot of people is like, hey, no, there you go again, doing weird things. Why are you going to the farm? What are you going to do there?
Yeah.
My parents were supportive, and that's all that really mattered. What really helped me was to really just have an open mind about what it is I was going to do and learn. I had no idea. I just knew I had to go explore and go see what else is out there.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up that your parents were supportive, your mom was supportive. I mean, your dad had been trying to convince you to come to the farm, like for probably a couple of years before you actually decided to do that.
Yeah.
I had an interview maybe September sometime, and one of the questions that stayed with me is the interviewer asked me, it's nice that you had support, because I studied engineering, and she had asked, how did you get into engineering? And I said, actually, my older brother studied engineering, and the boys in our family were like, oh, consider engineering. And then it was like drilled down to electrical. And that's part of how I ended up studying engineering. And her question was, that's nice that you got the support. And what would you tell someone who doesn't necessarily have the support? Where do they start? And that stuck with me for a while. And as I was thinking about my chat with you, I found that it's so beautiful that what was possible, other than just being stuck in corporate, feeling undervalued, you could then have a space to explore and figure something out, and work it out and really take it all in its grace, and learn and explore and enjoy it. And what would you say to someone who all they have is an inkling that they want to go into farming or they want to start a business, but they just, don't have the support, or they actually just don't even know where to start? What are some of the things you would tell someone like that?
That's a question I get all the time, because as much as I was meeting I've met a lot of people in the industry, a lot of farmers, a lot of young farmers, a lot of old farmers. But I'll tell you, the one thing that I did notice, especially amongst young farmers here in South Africa specifically, is that a lot of them did not have, like, for instance, even if they were on the farms with their family, they didn't have like stable income. Now, when my father proposed that I come, he promised me a salary. So the contrast of having that support wasn't just that they were going to pat me on the back. Finances were sorted, and that's when you really are free, right, to explore and all of that. And I always say to those who really want to get in and start, is you're not supposed to be alone, because a lot of times the support is probably not at home. but you can find support amongst colleagues and the industry. And I find that we all have skills that we can use today. And a lot of times people don't realize that the skills you already have, you need to start using from the minute you start. Let me give you an example. I want to go into farming. Find a farmer, even a new farmer, even if you don't know whether they're successful or not. Go there and start interning. Doesn't matter what age you're in. You've got some skill that you can give so that you can start making a connection around what is happening on the farm. You can learn so much. You can build a relationship and you can build other skills. And if you think about it, all the farmers actually transfer their skills to their children. Before you have those two concepts, which is having just the concept of what this business is, there's no ways you can tell us that you want to be a fruit farmer or a maize farmer. You don't know. You may not even like that stuff. And that's what everybody does. We just go in with these big concepts without exploring what they actually mean. That's why young people are encouraged to go into internships. Now, if you're going into a brand new industry, you are a young person. It doesn't matter how old you are, that you have to really learn. And the best way to learn is through internships. So unfortunately, we're all just, encouraged to just start running. And that's the issue, is that you need to understand what you're getting yourself into first. That, to me, is the best way you can get support of starting.
It took you around, 7 years before you opened Growth Shoot?
It was a couple of years. And you must remember that I already had quite a bit of knowledge of the farm. It took me 3 years just to find funding. That's a long time. So luckily I had work. But if that was the only thing I was trying to do and I had decided that I need to open this business tomorrow, no, it wasn't going to happen 3 years later. And that was me knowing the industry, me having contacts in the industry. When you walk into any funder, the first thing they ask is what experience do you have? I had 5 years of experience, but still it wasn't easy to extract money. And that's the reality of agriculture across the continent, even South Africa.
You were quite vocal around the fact that government support is non-existent, actually. And that everything you've managed to build so far was despite government. Has that changed in any way, in any form? And has there ever been an attempt to respond to that from government, considering your active involvement with the sector and the different platforms on which you get to speak and you get to vocalize some of these concerns?
So, Elliot, this debate is very close to my heart because, in all honesty, I will not say that government has not attempted. That I won't say. They have had many attempts and they continue having many attempts. So in the discussions I would have in the different platforms to kind of vocalize what we need as farmers, especially young farmers. And I feel that as much as organizations and government are putting efforts to support, it's just not appropriate, which means if you're not doing it right, it's actually not going to happen.
It doesn't help anyone.
Exactly. So right now we have land that's coming out, it's available, it's all great, but do we have sufficient and appropriate support to make sure that everyone who gets that land will be successful? And to me, those are the things that I realized about the industry, to be like, there is a huge potential for our businesses to succeed. But without proper support, it's going to be very, very difficult. Very difficult. When we're talking about government supporting, pushing and changing policy, that's very specific to drive specific change in the industry.
Because they just change a piece of legislation, it will help us.
Exactly. If that doesn't change, then a lot of things won't actually happen. Food production is at the heart of the entire agricultural value chain. Now, if the government is not connected to understanding how we support these farmers, then you can see how that the whole industry
gets affected.
Agriculture, as I said, has got a lot of issues right now, with climate change, with all these issues that are really going to make it hard to produce food. So we need smart people and people that are dedicated to be able to come and solve those issues. Because, all our farmers are actually disappearing. our big commercial farmers are dwindling. The numbers are dwindling, and a lot of their kids are not interested in agriculture. A lot of them aren't staying in South Africa either.
Yeah.
You know?
I was reading that the average farmer is anywhere between 55 and 65. So it's an aging cohort, you know?
Exactly. And we need to make sure that there is a good number to come and replace all of those people.
How did you pick rabbit farming? Why rabbits?
Yeah, so I knew I needed to build a business model, right? Like I told you, I thought about the stuff that I'm doing, right? The stuff that I know. Now, I did cattle. Cattle for kids is not a good start. When you're young, cattle is expensive. It takes a long time to get your return. You need a lot of land. It's just not organized enough for youngsters to just start running. Then I thought we had an apple orchard. The investments to build orchards is like out of this world. It's like something like 500,000 per hectare to about 800, 900,000. So it's just the investment doesn't make sense. No one's going to give that money.
Yeah.
Then, so I thought about all these things, and then I thought sheep. I'm not so confident with sheep. And then I was in the US in 2014. Attending a fellowship at Oklahoma State University.
Yeah.
And randomly, one of the master fellows there, he was studying a master's degree and he was helping in the program. Like, yeah, I've got rabbits in my garden. He eats rabbits. And I'm like, rabbits? Why do you have rabbits in your garden? And he's just like, the meat is healthy and it's just like nice. Like, I enjoy the meat. And I was like, what? And then the lecturer who was supporting us was just like, do you know like how rabbits are in terms of how they produce? And then he told me this stuff. He's like, they have between 6 to 12 babies at a time. They're only pregnant for a month. They have 2 wombs. So when the one is finished, the other one is ready. All I could just hear was money, money, money. Yeah, and it takes like 2 to 3 months, just under 3 months to sell those babies. I was like, oh my gosh, I need that rabbit. I need rabbits. And so I came back home and I started researching. It was literally just like that. I mean, and then I thought about it. This is really great because rabbits, you don't need a lot of space if you're a youngster starting out your own business. You wouldn't also, it's not even a lot of work. You could actually still help out on the farm and still have your own business, but at least you can have what's your income. The idea was to obviously give them access to my system, which is my car system, right? With all the support.
Yes.
And if you have all of that, we'll have a mentor, we'll help you with the training, you'll have access to a market, all those things will be sorted out. And that's how it came out to being. So my business was a pilot project, and I want to see if this really is what they said it is.
Yes. And what was the biggest hoop around money that you had to jump?
So in all honesty, it was, I guess, a lack of understanding, right? No, people in South Africa don't know rabbits. So funders is like, how do we get our money? And then also now understanding the markets. Our market is also, we don't have a very strong market in South Africa, not yet. So the guys we were selling to at the time were actually looking at export.
Okay.
And so our financiers are really just needing to understand, what is this? How do you get money back? But then in all honesty, access to funding in this space is that it's really risky. All of us don't know much, right? As much as we all say, yes, we've been farming in general as a collective, it's a risky cohort. So funders have just not been able to be okay with the level of risk. And so it's very hard to extract money out of the financial industry. And it's a bit sad because, we need to have products that are built for us. Like, I find that a lot of finance, which is the same as how I got my first money I got from SAB Foundation. So I find it much easier to get money from like enterprise development organizations or CSI money, or where I found grants and stuff. That's a little bit easier. The only problem with that is that not everyone knows about it. Not really sustainable for anyone who wants to plan ahead.
That's where the networks become important, and that if you're in the space, then you're exposed to a lot more of what goes on, where you can get the support.
So I've got a Facebook group. I think we've got about like 9,000 people on the group now. And because I realized I get a lot of that information, but half the time I can't utilize it myself, right? So, and so I thought to myself, hey, I'm not maybe in that commodity, or I'm not at that level. I'm not in the space to actually take advantage of it.
And how many rabbits do you have at the moment?
So interesting enough, I started with 800. So about 700 of that is like the females. So you obviously have more females. And then it's been, the rabbit business has been like one heck of a journey. So there's just been one issue after another. The market people that we had literally got liquidated as soon as we started being in production. So I had to stop for a while, and then I think for about a year, almost 2 years, looking for a market. I can't just sell like 2 or 3. So I found one beginning of this year, and then COVID hit. So it's been hectic. So in the long run, so it's been the rabbits arrived on the farm in 2008. So it's been 2 years, and they haven't been really productive since, because I didn't have a market. And then we decided though that we're going to can the project. The rabbits aren't really productive. I need to get brand new rabbits. If I knew 2 years ago that they weren't going to be productive after sitting, I wouldn't have kept them. So it's kind of like their productivity is so low that your investment isn't going to make sense. So those little things that you learn, it's just like, oh my word. So so at the moment I've got like 200 at the moment because we're selling them off.
But would you still go into rabbits, or have you started exploring other avenues of implementing the model?
This business has also kind of affirmed to me a lot of the things that I was scared about the industry, is that if we don't have a proper system to support us, it makes no sense to keep investing in the same, whether it's a sheep, whether it's cow, cattle. It's such a tough journey. But I'm not doing it just to get resilient. I'm doing it I want to be successful, like financially. So I'm struggling with that thought to just be farming for the sake of farming. Because I'm going to be focusing on is supporting the industry and be able to just facilitate, organizing our farmers. The reason we're not going to do well is that we're on our own and we don't know what's going on. Working with the association allowed me to see the importance of being organized. So that's really where my work is going to be. The farm is still there. I'm still with my dad. I'm still very convinced about rabbit production. And if we want rabbits to be successful, we're going to have to get access to the export market.
I'm so excited sitting here, Nono, listening to you. And the notion around my work, where you like the work I want to do, because it's something we touched on one of the episodes around trend translating, touching on the notion of the day we move from jobs to work and we see what we're doing as work, and therefore we're adding value, then we make a difference, and then you extract the financial benefit you're hoping to get out of it, right? And in the process, it's your work, not a job. I really think, just listening to you, the work, if you carry out this work, it would be so important for this country. And looking at food security, looking at the age profile of farmers that you talked about, looking at the value chain of where food production itself is the core of the entire industry that supports a whole host of activities. I think it's important work. And just listening to you, I just got excited at that. I wish you all the best in doing that. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your story. My hope is that it helps someone else either find their work or have an idea of where to start, even if they don't necessarily have the support that they need. And also just get an appreciation of the commitment that's required if you're going to make a success of anything. It's real hard work and there's things to learn. So thank you so much for this.
I enjoyed chatting to you, and thanks for inviting me.
Part of owning our stories is owning the reality that just because you want something, it does not mean that it will be easy. It might feel good and it might fulfill you to be doing what it is you want, but it does not mean it will be easy. And part of owning that reality could be owning the fact that what needs to be fixed is systemic, and have the courage to look at the systems in which we exist and challenge those and push the boundaries so that everybody can succeed. Join me next week for yet another Womanifesto story.
I would love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts, ideas, and experiences with me on elendlovu.com or send an email to womanifesto@elendlovu.com. Until next week, thank you and God bless.